brothers all believe in the Catholic faith very strongly. And that was when I finally saw what the Catholic faith is all about. My father-in-law really was a big part of my spiritual journey because my dad doesn't practice any faith whatsoever. But my father-in-law takes it so seriously. And so I look to him as an example of what a dad, what a father is supposed to be like. And he's really set the pace for me to see what it should be like being a dad. And now my wife and I, we've got 5 kids. We've been married almost 10 years. And
welcome to the Hey Brother podcast, where Catholic men share about real struggles. I'm Nick Clooney, your host, a Catholic psych mentor and the founder of Craft It for More, a mentorship practice dedicated to helping men live more radically free lives. Each week, I sit down with a man to hear his story about how brotherhood has shaped him, the struggles he's facing, and where he wants to grow. In addition to our weekly interviews, I share conversations with my brother Mitch. Subscribe and follow so we can walk this journey together. We want your help to build a stronger, authentic Catholic brotherhood. Hey everyone, welcome back to an episode of the Hey Brother podcast. I'm joined by guest Chris, who runs the Canon podcast, and I'll share more about that. He'll share more about that maybe as we talk about that in our podcast here, and at the end he'll talk a little bit about where you can find him online. But first question that I always like to ask men, especially guys who I've got connected with like just randomly by happenstance on internet, on Facebook, is like, tell me about yourself. What are you passionate about? What are some things that make Chris?
So I've been podcasting for a while now, like 6+ years. I had a podcast before Canon called the Krillcast. You can easily find it on YouTube if you're looking for it. I don't necessarily recommend to watch it because it's not really Catholic content, but if you're into like gaming, entertainment, that sort of thing, you might have found it over the years with various guests and stuff we've had on. But now I'm solely focused on Canon, which is a conversation about faith and my own journey in it, along with other people. We get into a lot of different topics. And if you're curious about the name, the Canon name, originally the channel was called Crash Catholic. But so there's like a canon in like law that you have to ask permission to use the word Catholic in the name of your channel or any type of media source.
Interesting.
And I actually sent an email to request if I could use the name Catholic in my channel. And it just so happened that when I launched my channel, we were in the process of swapping bishops. So I don't know if anybody ever even read the email. And then I launched it, and then I switched it to Canon. I was like, Canon works. It's fine. I don't need permission to use the word canon. It's kind of a play on words because I can use like a literal canon in my logo. And I can spell it Canon because that's like the canons of the church, right? Canon law and all that. So anyways, and Crash awesome. Is my nickname forever. So that's been my nickname for no reason other than it sounded cool to one of my friends in high school. Like
so it goes all the way back to high school earlier than that?
Yeah, exactly. People used to call me Chris Crash all the time, and it had nothing to do with anything I had actually done. Literally nothing.
You're not like injury prone or anything like that?
No, not at all.
That's interesting. What was the shift like for going from like gaming content to Catholic content?
Well, it's funny you ask because for the most part, what I talked about offline from my podcast was, the bulk of it was Catholic stuff. So I had to almost form myself ready for each of the gaming podcasts that I would do because a lot of the time I would have to literally an hour or two before my podcast look up, okay, what's the latest gaming content, what's going on, because I just wasn't paying attention. I was reading Saint Irenaeus Against Heresies, and then all of a sudden I'm flipping gears to game. And this was towards the end when we started the podcast. It was 2018 or 2019. And I had a very strong pull to my faith around that same time frame shortly after we started the podcast. And I really haven't looked back. So it was strange because I've spent so much time essentially not talking about my faith online. But now it's that's all I talk about. So
yeah,
to a degree. We still talk about other stuff. We talked about Star Wars in my last podcast I did. So there's other stuff to talk about than just specifically the faith. But you can talk about morality and all that by applying the subjects.
Does that sum up Chris's personality? Gaming, the faith, like those two like are staples of.
Not anymore. It's
Not
mostly
anymore.
like reading, research, writing.
Okay.
I'm working on a bit. I've probably talked about this for 2 years now, but I'm working on writing a book, and it's going to
Okay.
take me a long time to get it done because it's historical fiction. So I've done so much research. I'm on like year 2 of research for this book, but
Nice.
that's
Are you allowed
a lot.
to disclose any details, or is it a under the wraps kind of project?
It's about it takes place during the time of the Bible, so it's somebody who's actually mentioned in the Bible in one of the letters of St. Paul, but there's very
Okay.
little known about him, so it's safe to kind of invent his life and his story based on what we do know about him, and it's just taking a very long time because I want to get it right.
Yeah, sure.
So
That's
that's the short of it, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's what I like, and I actually really do enjoy writing, recording, producing music. So I'm gonna get back into that at some point. I kind of stopped around 2014 time frame, which is about the time my wife and I got together, and I just haven't been able to find time to do it. But I am in the process of writing a song, and it's very Catholic oriented. So we'll see how it goes.
Nice. That's awesome. So you got like this flair for creativity that's like
Oh, yeah.
definitely in the core of who you are. You're like, I want to do creatives somehow, some way. Has that always
Yeah,
been
yeah.
the case? Is that like, has that been like
Yes.
evolving? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm at heart. I'm very into the creative arts and stuff like that. Like, for example, I guess 2014 wasn't the last song I wrote. It was the last serious song I wrote. I wrote a
Okay.
parody of. You remember the song "Old Town Road"?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I did a Halo inspired, we'll say, version of Old Town Road, and it actually got shared by the official Halo account. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can still
That's
find
awesome.
it. It's on the Krillcast page. It's called like, what did I call it? Infinite Road. I think it was called Infinite Road. I don't know,
Infinite
whatever.
Road.
Yeah, I
I'm
think that's
like
what it's
I'm
called.
tempted to go look it up after this because Halo 3 was my jam. Like back in the day, I played a lot of.
Well, the reason the
Lion
Halo
3.
account liked it was like a step through the entire series. I literally went from
Okay.
point A to Halo Infinite with the lyrics that I put into the song. So
Wow.
it was short, but it worked pretty well. And the Halo account, they shared it on their blog. They had like a community blog that they were doing. I can't find the post anymore, but the link to it is still in my YouTube video because I thanked them for sharing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, creating stuff, podcasting, gaming, the Catholic faith. When did the Catholic faith become like a serious thing for you? You mentioned like 2018 was kind of maybe a turning point or something somewhere in that time frame. Was there
We kind of have
small
to step,
points along the way?
we kind of have to step back a little bit if we want to get into it.
Okay.
So like, I don't know if you went through CCD or what was your process for getting your catechism, or if you went to Catholic school or what. But for me, it was like once a week on a Monday for a period of kindergarten through 8th grade, and nothing wrong with the catechist I had, but it's very difficult to catechize somebody for 1 hour each week at a time when nobody wants to pay attention.
Yeah.
Very difficult. So by the time I hit 8th grade, I was just like, man, am I going to graduate and be done with this Catholic thing or what, So
Sure.
we're talking like '07, I think, was when I got confirmed. Somewhere,
Okay.
yeah, but maybe '07. I think that's right. 8th grade, yeah, '07. And rolling into high school, I think I was still attending until my brother, who was 1 grade behind me, finished his catechism. And then after that, it was kind of like, well, we have so much going on. If you don't want to go, I'm not going to make you. That's kind of where the attitude of the parents at that time.
Okay.
So there was no guiding force for me, no real spiritual director per se for me, and not in my own home. And everybody around me was Protestant. So it's like, what am I going to do? And it wasn't until pretty much like my sophomore or junior year of college, I started to kind of feel a pull back to the faith. And it's
Okay.
kind of weird because I went to school at University of Michigan Dearborn, which is heavily Muslim and other religions. It's not really known for being Catholic, although there is the Chaldean population there, which I've talked about with like Enoch before. It's kind of a unique place because you've got Chaldean Christians literally next door to Muslims, which is just not a good idea. Because
Interesting.
you know what's going on in the Middle East with all that, right?
I'm woefully ignorant when it comes to a lot of stuff.
So a lot of
outside the
Middle Eastern Christians, especially the Chaldeans, are currently being killed by Muslims. So like for them to come over to America to escape that and end up moving in right next door to people who practice the same faith as the people who are killing them, it's like, oh man, that's kind of wild. But obviously pray for them, because hopefully they'll find a safe place over here if they don't find one over there. And but anyways, so I would watch all these people take their faith almost so seriously I couldn't believe it. It's like people really practice their faith. Like so for example, during like the prayer hours for Muslims, they have to go and come into the washroom, whatever room you have to wash in. They literally wash themselves like head to toe, arms, legs, everything. They got to be clean for their worship. And it's like, who the heck takes their faith that seriously? Because it was bizarre to me, because at that time I wasn't taking any faith seriously. And so I was watching that, and there was a couple of different Christian groups on campus. There was a Newman Center, but it was like not advertised at all. Like I didn't even know where it was. It wasn't until my senior year that I even heard of that it existed. And a friend of mine named Simon showed me that it was there. I was like, oh, that's neat. I didn't know that was there. But I had gone to church with a friend of mine who happened to be Catholic. I didn't even know they were Catholic, to be honest. It was kind of funny finding that out. And I happened to be, have you heard of the Rescue Project?
Yeah, with the...
So Father John Ricardo. I just so happened to stumble into his church, heard a homily. It was the first homily he did about Pope Francis, because at the time he had just been, a year or two into his papacy or something like that, and Father John Ricardo had just come back from some mission thing he was doing or something, and I just happened to hear it, and it really kind of pumped me up. I was like, maybe I need to start coming to church again. I wasn't fully into it yet, but I was like, maybe I need to start going. So like I was going once, twice, maybe 3 times a month. I wasn't perfect yet, never will be.
Sure.
But shortly after that, I went through some nasty relationships with different people, and I'm not going to get into that, but it left a kind of stale taste in my mouth. And towards the end of that summer, my wife and I started dating, and she has a very strong faith. Her parents have a strong faith. Her brothers all believe in the Catholic faith very strongly, and that was when I finally saw like what the Catholic faith is all about. My father-in-law really was a big part of my spiritual journey, because my dad doesn't practice any faith whatsoever. Like there is nothing there for him. But my father-in-law takes it so seriously. And so I kind of looked at him as an example of what a dad, what a father is supposed to be like. And he's really kind of set the pace for me to see what it should be like being a dad. And now my wife and I, we've got 5 kids. We've been married almost 10 years. And looking back, I'm just so happy I found that, because that really, my relationship with my wife and her family kind of saved me with my faith, like significantly. That's awesome.
So you like found yourself meandering in like middle school, and I don't think that's like a dissimilar experience. I think a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, me and my brother who co-hosts this podcast with me, we both come from like small farm town Ohio, and it was like the once a week Wednesday night go get catechized, quote unquote, right? Yeah. And it's a relatable experience. Even to I like taught like was youth minister at a elementary Catholic school for a while, and I think it's a similar experience even there. Whereas like this expectation that the faith is just kind of somehow like given to you through textbooks, right? Like, or given to you through like these lessons, but that aspect of like not having anyone to like actually like, especially like with dad being not like practicing any faith, like that's a hard thing to be able to maneuver through. And at any point were you always, so like you're always practicing somewhat, like.
Well, it sounds in the back of my mind. Let's put it this way: I never tried anything else. I was pretty firmly. It was either Catholicism or it was nothing. Like there was. I went to. I can count on 2 hands the amount of non-Catholic, like whatever you want to call them, I've been to, and I've always been like, ooh, kind of get the ick factor. I'm like, not really my thing. I'll give you this one. I went in high school when I was still kind of trying to figure this whole thing out. I'd never been to any kind of... I've been to Lutheran services, which are very similar to the Catholic Mass. So, like, that wasn't as jarring. But I also just knew that Lutheranism wasn't correct. You know what I mean? Just because in the name, Martin Luther's name in the name of the religion. So I was like, I knew that wasn't right.
Yeah.
But I had gotten invited by I think it was my senior year of high school. This girl I kind of liked. I guess she was practicing either non-denom or Baptist, one or the other. They're pretty much the same thing as far as how their worship goes.
Okay.
And I get there, and there's like a bunch of dudes in shorts and polos, and they're like, waving their arms in the air, and I was like, this doesn't feel like a church anything. Like, this feels like a rock concert. Or like, it was just all feel good, like,
sure,
Jesus is here to love you. But I don't know if he wants us to do that in our worship. I think he wants us to do what the Catholic Church has always taught me. So I kind of wandered out the back when nobody was looking, and I was like, I'll see you at the end of whatever this is.
Man, oh man, that's wild. That's wild. What? So you found the faith like a little more intriguing with like your father-in-law, getting to know your wife's family, and that. Was there like any moment or any like struggle that like God used to like really like amp it up, really like be like, okay, like, are you gonna do this or not? Like, kind of, is that a fair question, or was it slow
There's
and
been
steady?
a couple moments in my life where I really felt like there was some kind of a divine intervention. One of which was the night I actually asked my wife to be my girlfriend. Like, basically what happened was I had been kind of avoiding dating her because I was worried I was going to marry her. That was my thought process at the time. Does that make sense? You see what So my friend, I don't know why he did this, but he asked her to go to a wedding with him, and I kind of lost my mind. Like, I literally didn't know what to do. So we were all at the same place, and I was just like, I'm out of here. I just left. Everybody knew I was upset. They knew why I was upset, and I just left. I was driving down the road, and a song came on, and I was like, what? It was like, essentially the lyrics are, things aren't over with. You need to go back. That's essentially what the lyrics was like. No clearer sign could have come at that time. So I turned my car around. I drove back to where it was. I told my buddy, you're not taking her to the wedding because me and her need to figure some things out. And then I told her, I was like, I'm afraid of dating you because I'm going to marry you. And she was like, what? What are you talking about? Because we weren't even dating at the time. It was just this wild and powerful just change just came over me. And I was like, all right, I got to go back and I got to take care of this thing. And 5 months later, I proposed to her and we were engaged to be married. So.
Man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like a wild experience. Like, can you take me more into that fear of like fear? Like, it's because that's kind of like not many guys have that fear. I'm afraid I'm gonna marry this person. They might not be able to put their finger on it. And like, tell me more about that.
Well, I was never good with commitment. Like, that was not my thing. I was absolutely terrible with committing to anything. And that is one thing I can respect about my dad. Is like, if you're gonna do something, do it to the fullest extent, and don't just quit things. And so the idea of spending, like, I just knew that this was like the end of my dating life, and so I was afraid to end that. I wasn't sure what I was doing, and I was just like, fine, I'm just, what, God, this is it. This is what it's gonna be. All right, I will date this girl who I'm going to marry. It was like, there's just like a finality to it, like, you're done with this phase of your life. Move on to the marriage aspect. Move on to that part of your life. You're done with this dating scene.
Interesting.
It was just a little scary because I'd only dated one other person, so.
Yeah. And then like to be like totally convicted, like that this is gonna be
no,
the
seriously,
woman.
that I knew it was over.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it. I'm gonna be married to this woman, and this is the end of it. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So that was one example of like the divine intervention. Is there like any other moments that you feel like?
Yeah, no. The second time, look, I haven't evaluated this with a priest or anything, so I can't claim for sure this is divine intervention.
Sure.
But I have told priests about it, so it's kind of weird. I had like this sinking feeling that something bad was happening, and then found out I was probably going to lose my job. And so I kept praying about it, and during a rosary, I kind of like spaced out, and this figure who I can only think is Saint Joseph, this is the only person that it would make sense, kind of came to me, held out their hand, and said, everything's gonna be okay. And a couple hours later, I got a call, you're not gonna lose your job. everything's gonna be okay. Everything's taken care of, and we'll see you on Monday.
Wow.
It was just like that. And shortly after that, I put in my garden dedicated to St. Joseph, and so
Yeah.
I've got a little
That's
prayer area
awesome.
in my yard that's got a St. Joseph statue. It's got some Lenten roses, and it's, it doesn't take
So
much maintenance. So
you had the sinking feeling that like you were going to lose your job, and like
oh,
were
I
there
knew
indications?
for a fact. I knew for a fact that
Okay.
if something didn't change, my job was done, and I was gonna have to figure
Okay.
it out. I had a wife. I had like three kids at the time.
Oh wow.
I think we had a fourth one on the way, and I was just, this is not good. This is going to be very bad.
Yeah.
And not that it's
Yeah.
hard to find another job in the engineering field, but I was
Yeah.
very concerned.
Yeah, and especially since it's like, yeah, it's one thing, like, if it's just me, right, like, that's whatever.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'll land on my feet, but it's like my wife, my kids, like, like, this is a big deal. Like, I've gotta be able to provide for them, and that's wild. It's great that St. Joseph was able to give you consolation in that moment. And
Seriously,
like,
I think back to that moment, and I'm filled with like this relief, this immense relief. So, yeah.
Man.
I do, and because
Sweet.
of that, I do the consecration from what is it, Father Calloway, the consecration to Saint Joseph. I do that every year since. I did it the year before that, but I've been doing it every year since. I literally every year I do it. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, one of the things I like to ask guys about is like is brotherhood, and kind of switching gears to that. Like, how have you felt brotherhood impact your life?
well, up until probably after that experience, honestly, I really didn't have a lot of close Catholic friends, to be honest with you. But
Okay.
in the last like 2 to 3 years, I met my now best friend. I'm not going to say his name. He doesn't want to be on the internet, but
Sure.
very Catholic friend. I got a group of guys I play basketball with a lot of Saturday mornings. They're all Catholic. We
Nice.
pray together. We play basketball together. Shout out to them. They're a great group of guys, and I do a lot more stuff. And now I even have a board game night I do with my priest every month, and that's been awesome. So
That's awesome.
developing a Catholic brotherhood really changed the game for me. Like, I just feel so much more connected to my faith. When your friends are all practicing, it just means more, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Do you understand what I'm saying? And finding that group of guys is difficult, but once you find them, you need to grab hold of it and make sure you keep that group together, because it is super important, because you're going to be going through the same struggles with them. No matter what country, no matter what place you live in, the Catholic faith is going to be persecuted or otherwise, or maybe you might have a sense of relief for a little while, but either way, you need those guys around you who are going through the same things you are and living the same faith you are. I think it's important that they're living the faith with you, not just showing up to church on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think like it's like one thing as a man, like to be one, we always have to fight through like I can do the shit myself. Like I'm a self-made man. Like I got this. And it's like no, like you don't. like we need other people in our lives. And so it's like it's great to have a supportive wife who's Catholic and like helps you like be a better man. But it can't be just the wife. It's good to have God, but it can't just be God. It's like we need other men that are actually like helping us be better husbands, because it's too hard not to like bring in other guys to learn from, to get experience from. Can you walk me into that a little bit more? I know you said you don't want to bring the best friend's name in, which is absolutely understandable and totally respect that. But like, what was hard about finding brotherhood for you? Like, it's not something that you just kind of walk into.
When you go to
Or did
church
you?
on any random weekend, I mean, really, how many, depending on what parish you're at, I mean, there are parishes that are filled with guys, and that's great. But a lot of parishes you go to, you might not see another guy your own age. It depends on where you're attending church at. I mean, these days it's getting better. I think it really is. But
Yep.
it was pretty sparse before the last like couple of years, and people weren't really excited about the Catholic faith as much, and the guys weren't attending it. It was like, a woman with 2 kids, and that was it. And you're not going to find brotherhood with a mom who's got 2 kids in the church. That's just not going to happen. You're going to find brotherhood when other men are also attending church, and you see them frequently. And you have to have things to do, because, men like to do things. They don't want to just sit around and I mean, they do like to sit around and shoot the you-know-what, but when you have like festivals, fish fries, things that you can volunteer at, you'll meet the other guys of the parish, and that's where I met my best friend at the fish fry. We were working the fish fry together.
Nice.
And we just got chatting and found out we had a lot in common. I even knew a lot of his family from where I was from and where he was from, and it was just kind of funny to meet each other at a parish, probably a half an hour from the parish we both grew up going to. So
Yeah.
but we had a lot in common, and we still do, and we chat all the time. Him and I will pray liturgy of the hours together when we get together at morning, noon, night, whatever time of day it is. We'll do whatever the hour is, and
That's awesome.
That's always nice to actually pray with somebody else. You know, it's a totally different experience than praying it by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's like something that's cool. Like as men, we tend to try to go to the isolated route. There's something, really beautiful about like honoring the fact we're always going to be individuals before God, right? That's always going to be the case, like us before the Lord. But He created other people for a reason. So it's like there's such a good that's found in entering into community, and particularly as a man, how it's almost like it's like easier to see the good of being by myself. Right, like especially as you start a family, like have a wife, have kids, like that feeling of like, I definitely need a moment to be by myself. But to see a little deeper into like actually this community aspect is something that's really good and really needed in my heart. A lot of men could benefit from just like hearing that like that's a reality, it's a possible thing. Like brotherhood out there, like it's achievable. Like you don't have to just do the dad thing alone. What's something you would offer men like out there who are listening to the podcast? Like if you had to either like from your own kind of experience and struggle or just from what you're seeing, like what's one thing you would encourage guys with today?
Actually, I've got 3 things, if you don't mind. The first thing I would encourage is, increase your prayer life, whether that's by yourself or with other people. They say if you can't find 10 minutes to pray, find 20 minutes and do it anyways. So double it. But the other thing to consider is, you are who your friends are. I heard that from Will Smith one time, and it really sunk in, right? Like, who did the apostles hang out with? They hung out with the other apostles and Jesus, right? You are who your friends are. So if all of your friends are kind of lackluster, terrible with their faith, either you got to transform them or you got to find other friends who follow the faith with you. So that really sunk in. It was like a speech he did at like the Grammys or something. I don't know. It was years and years and years ago. But I thought about it. I was like, man, I got to change some of these friends I got. It was like, because I don't want to be like some of these people.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's seriously no joke though. If you want to be Catholic, find Catholic friends, or make your friends who aren't Catholic. Either one. And then third thing, mentorship. If you don't have a father figure, somebody who is helping, lives the life you want to live, find somebody who is, and try to get mentoring from them, or maybe have them just give you ideas for how you can get to where they are. If there's a dad at the parish with 5 kids and that's what you want, talk to them, get to know them, meet their family, learn from them, whatever you can do, and then develop a relationship, obviously, with your priest, because he's gonna be a good spiritual guide for you, and if he's not, he'll know somebody that is. That's what I would suggest.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's really valuable. I think it's something that we need Catholic brotherhood, we need guys in our lives. And then so that was one point, and then you said we need a mentor. Well, was the third point being with priest, or was there one that was missing in there?
Oh, the first one was prayer. Increase your prayer.
Prayer. Prayer. Okay, yeah.
I
just brushed
find
by
yourself
that.
find yourself a good prayer book, whatever it is you want to do. I got this old 1960s Roman breviary, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I've got more prayer books than my wife wants to know about. Let's put it that way. So just find one you like.
Good author out there, Jacques Philippe. He writes "Searching for and Maintaining Peace" and "Time for God." Time for God's like more of this like, okay, I want a prayer life. Like, what's the basic steps? And he just is like, he does a really good job of like, prayer is not a technique. Here's the dispositions that you should have for prayer, and like just lays it out in a beautiful way. Is there any beginner books you would suggest? I know I'm kind of going on a tangent now, but
for prayer. So I think I've tried probably probably 50% of the prayer books out there. Let's put it that way. I would not. I would not start with like your old school 1960s breviary. I wouldn't do that. I would start with either Christian prayer, liturgy of the hours, or even just praying the Psalms. That's a good start.
Yeah.
Or the Rosary. Psalms or Rosary are great starts. Because I mean, if you pray all the Psalms, you're basically doing the same thing as this, except you're missing like a very little things, not much.
Sure.
But if you want to do the official prayer of the church, you either do what Pope Benedict XVI said, good to go. It's the old Latin stuff, or you do the Liturgy of the Hours. And if you want to pray with other people, Liturgy of the Hours is where it's at. There's a couple apps you can even get. There's Universalis, Breviary, whatever the heck, iPieta, Brev Meum. There's just you can find the Liturgy of the Hours if you look hard enough, and you don't have to pay for it. If you want to get a nice prayer book, go online and find one of the official ones. You won't regret it. And if you can find somebody else that prays the Divine Office or the Hours, that's probably what they'll have. Do you have any experience praying Liturgy of the Hours?
Yeah, I've prayed liturgy hours off and on in prayer life, and it's definitely a great communal prayer. I think it's like one of those things that it's if you have the experience praying the liturgy hours, and somebody's like, hey, you want to pray this? It's like, okay, let's jump in, let's pray together, and it's like it's super awesome too. Like it is like one of the approved versions of the Catholic or approved one of the. You just said it, like
the official prayer of the church.
Official prayers of the church, along with the mass. Yeah. So, like I remember, like we try to go to mass on Wednesday nights, and we got there, and we go with our families, and so it's like me, my brother, and a few other people, and the parking lot's packed, and it was like a school graduation mass, and it was just like, hey, let's just go pray liturgy hours. Like I know mass is great, let's go pray liturgy hours and go play the playground, because it's like. We don't come for an hour and a half mass on Wednesday nights with kids. Like, it's just not gonna be good on our patients. It's not gonna be good for them. But yeah, it is a beautiful prayer. And I think it's a really great point. Like, so prayer, brotherhood, and then mentorship. Like finding somebody who's walked that line before you. And there's a great example of brotherhood. I might have given this in the podcast before, but they talk about brotherhood. Like it's like a brick wall. You have like a brick beneath you, bricks beside you, and then a brick above you. And it talks about like how there's always going to be a brother you can help because you're one step ahead of them along the path. There's always brothers aside of you supporting you, and then there's always like somebody who you can look towards who can help walk the path with you. And I love that challenge for men listening to lean into that, because it's good. I think guys need to hear that. Like, look for that example of somebody who's walked the walk and learn. Can always learn in humility from other guys. So, before we wrap things up, tell me about Crash Canon, where people can find you. Twitter, you're on Twitter, and any other places. Yeah. I'm
on Twitter. You can find me under my own username, which is ChrisXCrash92. I put the X in there because some 13-year-old in 2009 took Chris Crash 92, so good for them. I can't get it. And then the other one is Crash Canon. It's at Crash, literally just Crash Canon, one word. Those are my two Twitters. I've got it on Facebook. It's also Crash Canon, and YouTube is also Crash Canon. You'll find it. I think it's Crash_Canon on YouTube, because somebody who's into Crash Bandicoot took Crash Canon. So good for them.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
One other thing, since you brought up brotherhood and bringing people with you. Little fact for just for your own sake here. St. Francis of Assisi did not go alone when he went to go and talk to the Sultan at the time during the Crusades. He took two of his brothers with him. And brothers is in like brothers in the faith, not his actual brothers. I don't think any of his family was also a Franciscan. I think he was the only one. But they went right to the Sultan, all three of them, and tried to convert him. So he did not go alone.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, oh man, what a witness to brotherhood there. I'll throw your information down in the show notes so people can connect with your content. Thanks for coming on. I wanted to also invite guys who are listening here at the end, if you want to check out more about what I do with my mentorship practice with Crafted for More, you can go to craftedformore.com. That's where I walk with men and help them become who God's created them to be. And we also have a Discord server here. Me and Mitch co-facilitate a Discord server called Men Striving for More. So anyone who's listening to our podcast right now, if you're looking for some of that brotherhood and you're having a hard time finding it, go down to the show notes. The Discord server is free right now. You can just pop in there and join us in that server, and we'd love to share Brotherhood with you. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time. God bless.
God bless.